this is a good chance for them to kind of put the grievances and the party politics aside, attend the inauguration, and move forward in the best interest of the United States.
Yeah, John, good afternoon. You're exactly right. Democrats should be attending President Trump's inauguration. They should be, quite frankly, taking part in this process about how we can go and improve the country. As we saw this coalition that President Trump put together this past fall, he increased numbers with African Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans. He had union voters, people from right-to-work states. He had this entire coalition coming together, and including young people. He had all these great groups that came together. And really what the vote for President Trump was a rejection of the past 4 years. People didn't like the direction of the economy, didn't obviously like what happened with the lack of security at the border. And people want to see something different happen. And I think President Trump's cabinet nominees really reflect that. You look at RFK Jr., look at Tulsi Gabbard, you look at all these different folks that he's put forward. They're really, you wouldn't expect they're coming into a cabinet position, but they bring such qualified expertise from the outside. And that's what people want. They want to see Washington shaken up a bit.
Well, and that's a good transition to, and segue into the transition. You said Thursday there were no hard no's from Republicans for any of President Trump's nominees because they're, as you were just talking about, really good, well-qualified people. But President-elect Trump, in his interview with Time magazine, said there were several hard no's on Matt Gaetz and that it just ultimately wasn't worth the fight. Is the strategy with Pete Hegseth, with Kash Patel, with Tulsi Gabbard, to whether, at least with Hegseth and what we're starting to see with Patel, whether the media storm, the media backlash and onslaught, until ultimately they get the Senate votes? And do they have the votes right now?
Yeah, great question. So when you talk about this, the dynamic of where the nominees are, I think that Pete Hegseth is right now on the path to be confirmed. Same thing with Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. and Kash Patel and everybody else. And the reason is what we knew all along is once we get these nominees in front of the senators for their one-on-one meetings, that they would knock their socks off. They would show just how impressive they are and exactly why President Trump picked them in the first place. That was our strategy. And so as we've seen, now we're 2-3 weeks into this process, a whole bunch of nominees have their individual senator meetings this next week. And then, of course, many of the full Senate committee hearings, the confirmation hearings, will start then in January, some before the president is inaugurated on the 20th, and some will be afterwards. That senators are going to have their chance to kick the tires. That's their right, do the individual meetings as well as the hearings. And it's very clear that these folks that are coming in are bringing such an expertise level that they can affect the change that President Trump wants to bring right away on day one. And so we knew all along, get them to their meetings, make sure that people know here is the support level behind them, the broad coalition. In fact, the polling numbers for some of these guys are really, really good. And this is what people want to see. They don't want to see run-of-the-mill stock politicians. They want to see people like RFK Jr., who's going to come in and talk about things such as make America healthy again.
Talking about, just real quick, and I appreciate your point, and that's a fair point. With Pete Hegseth, though, is there concern that the media onslaught, that it's just going to continue with him? And I understand, look, full disclosure, I worked with Hegseth at News Channel. I did hits for his shows. He was always fair to me. I always heard good things about him. But when does it get to a point where President-elect Trump says, this is starting to distract from the quality that these people and that this guy is bringing to the table?
Yeah, and so Pete Hegseth faced really what I thought was an unfair media smear attempt against him, and I think he made it through the gauntlet. I think he stood in, he fought, he defended himself, and he explained not just why, from his aspect, why personally he's the right person for it, but also the vision is he's stepping in, what he's going to be able to do at DOD. Obviously, we need to rebuild much of the Department of Defense after what Biden and Harris have done over the past 4 years. We need to make sure that the DOD is accountable. And John, there's one other thing about Pete Hegseth I'd point out. Here's someone who's received the 2 Bronze Stars. He's also served in combat. He's been in both Iraq and Afghanistan. This is someone who's literally been shot at on the battlefield. That's the type of person who I want leading the DOD, because as we make these decisions about whether or not to put American troops into harm's way, I want someone who knows at a personal level what that's like before you go and send some young man or young woman into battle, that you know exactly what danger's on the line there. But Pete Hegseth, I think he's gone through that gauntlet. He's emerged even stronger for it, and he's impressed people ever since.